Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another event on behalf of the Creative Europe Desk Media Office Croatia. It's called European Cinema, Differences that Become Opportunities. It's not by chance that we chose this specific title. We are today celebrating 30 years of the media sub-program as the only European fund meant for preserving and boosting the European audiovisual industry. And it's not by chance that it happens this week, because we are also contributing to the celebration of Europe, culminating on the 9th of May with the Day of Europe. It's for sure that our differences contribute to the richness of European cultural diversity. And since we are approaching the new Creative Europe program 21-27, joining again both culture and media, with a slogan, push our boundaries, we want to push our boundaries with this event as well. We want to push our borders, our differences, and to see how we can collaborate among each other and how we can develop this further. Thanks to the creative and cultural sectors and thanks to the European film, we can really go beyond our borders, our boundaries. And it's true that we need to be divided because we have different production capacities, because we differ in terms of our territories, in terms of our languages, but still we manage to find our own ways to collaborate and to get out of our comfort zone. The event is divided into two panels. So now we are starting with the first one. And the focus is on the case study Borderline. And for this reason, we would like to introduce different national perspectives coming from Belgium, Croatia, and Norway. In the next second panel, we will definitely focus more on the case study by presenting producers and directors of really a unique project. But before we dive into all those details and into our future, let's see where we are now when it comes to the media program. My name is Martina Petrovic, and I'm the head of Creative Europe Desk Media Office Croatia. And I'm going to be your host and moderator of the panel. So enjoy. Let's start with sharing my screen. Okay. Perfect. So basically, what I want to highlight is how we did it in the period that is now behind us, 2014 and 2020. So in terms of the single project development, you see that the majority of the fiction project was supported, having a total of 521. Then there is a place for documentaries, 303, and animation 157, having a total of 981 projects. When it comes to audiovisual capacity, so you see that Big Five in the future is going to be Big Four without the UK. So the usual suspects are Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and in the previous program it was UK with 305. Then medium, Belgium and Norway are part of this grouping. There is a total of 9 countries with 313, and small, where Croatia belongs to, with 21 countries, resulting in 363. When it comes by genre, you see that, again, in terms of the financing, the fiction is taking the lead with almost 21 million of euros. Then it's documentary, and the last place is taken by animation. In order to understand where we are, I took out also the national results, since the focus is on our 3 countries. So you see in the single project development, it was Belgium being on the first place and with 2.1 million of euros, then Norway with 1.4, and Croatia with 1.2 million of euros. When it comes to the slate finding, a bit complicated. scheme. Belgium is still leading with 7.9 million of euros, Norway with 4.8, and Croatia with around 780,000 euros. And when it comes to the TV programming scheme, Norway is leading with 14 projects, but having a total of 6.05 million of euros. Then Belgium with 19 projects with 4.1, and Croatia with 290 euros, including also Kinoteka as partnering up in the borderline, the focus of our today TV programming scheme. Let me just get out. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, so for the first panel, I have wonderful speakers. I think we lost, Clara is back, perfect. So I want to welcome the first speakers, Marie van Inis, project manager for documentary projects at Flanders Film Fund, Belgium. Then I have another lady, Clara Nilsson Groening, film commissioner documentary, film and series at Norwegian Film Institute. Hello. And finally, the only man on the panel, Christopher Peter Marčić, the CEO of the Croatian Audiovisual Film Center. So welcome. I think for the first time we have a joint gathering, Belgium, Croatia, and Norway. And I'm curious, how different are we, and how can we learn from each other and prepare our film professionals for the next period? So in these panel discussions, I'm going to tackle 3 highlights that are kind of important for the overall Creative Europe program. The number 1 is definitely collaboration in terms of the co-productions, then greening, so how we can be ready for the sustainable Europe, and above all, are we doing anything at national level that can boost overall European sustainability? And last but not the least, it's quality and diversity. How to include, in terms of the content and gender, the inclusiveness of all projects and all gender. So I will start with Marie. Before we continue with the dialogue, let us look at the trailer. Second, I would like to get some feedback from the audience, because in the technical studio, they could hear the video. We couldn't as the panelists, so maybe just a feedback from the audience. Just write in the chat if you didn't hear that. We're going to repeat it, the video. But anyways, Marie, thank you for accepting the invitation. I'm very happy and honored. I know that it's, I don't know when it's not busy the time of the year, but due to this COVID, I think we are all overwhelmed. But the motto of the video and of Flanders Fund is co-production. So can we have maybe a better insight? What do you support when it comes to the co-productions? Who are your usual suspects? And do you go even beyond?
Okay. Okay. Hello. Yes. In the trailer we were seeing is actually a trailer of a partner of ours, which is Screen Flanders, which is an economical fund, and so they do a lot of co-production, but really based on economic on your spend in Flanders. So that's that's one fund, and then I work for the Flanders Audiovisual Fund, where we work more on a cultural base. We have two main partners with whom we do co-productions, a fixed amount of co-productions each year, which is the Netherlands, where we share the language. And then, in Belgium, we're a bit a special country. So we also co-produce within our own country with the Wallonia region, which is the French-speaking region. So we have special calls for those two these two co-productions. So we normally have 3 calls a year, and we do 3 or 4 projects for fiction and documentary from each of these partners. So it's like a how do you say it?
Reciprocity.
Yes. Sorry. So we have same deadlines in both regions or countries, and so we put the same amount each year in each other's projects. So that's one fixed scheme. But then our regular funding application for our majority projects is also open for minority co-productions from other countries. So that's both for films, for single projects, as for TV series.
Maybe we show the slide on the possibilities. So I ask Ten and Vanya if they can help us out with the slide. Co-producing in Flanders.
So on the slide, you will see the different possibilities you have if you come to co-produce in Flanders. So as I explained, we have our fund, which is the cultural fund. Then there is the Screen Flanders, which is more an economic fund. You can combine both, but to apply for the economic fund, it's more for the really big projects, big budget projects, because it's you can apply, you can ask for a little percentage of what you will spend in the region. So it's more for big fiction movies, series. So we haven't had a lot of documentaries passing through the Screen Flanders yet, especially for co-production. I think it's more really for fiction or for animation. And then there is a tax shelter in place in Belgium also. So that's national. The slide went again. Yeah. So the first you see, it's the tax shelter. That's national. That's for the whole of Belgium. Then you have two. You have our Flemish community. That's a cultural fund. That's where I come in. And then there is the Flanders region. So that's without Brussels. So we're a very complicated country. And there is really the economic fund. But you can combine all systems as both as a minority as a majority project.
May I ask you something?
Yes.
When it comes to the media sub-program, do you also introduce, when evaluating the projects, kind of matching funds? So, for example, if somebody receives media funding, do you have some kind of written regulation that it's recommended to be co-financed by Flanders Film Fund or not?
Not that I know of.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know for the so one of the regulations to apply as a film in our as a minority film is that you need to have the majority the majority production in place. So your fund in your own country needs to be in place. But that's actually like the only requirement we have for film on a financial base. And for series, you also need to have the majority, your majority country in place. And for series, we only match our support is matching the broadcaster. So then you would need to have a Flemish broadcaster on board, and then depending on what category, if it's fiction, documentary, animation, you can ask. We have multiplicators of what our support can be in relationship to what the broadcaster would bring in. But I don't think we have special, or I'm not aware of special rules regarding if you had media or not, or. Of course, the more financing you have already in place, the more, the stronger your application would be. So.
And just the last thing before I move to others. When speaking with you a day earlier, you mentioned that there is a kind of a written collaboration with your national public television in terms of co-financing the projects, and that they have two options. So maybe if you can also mention that.
Yes, for our how it works in Belgium, more or less. I'm not an expert in the details, but we have our national broadcaster, and we have commercial broadcasters, and at least the national broadcaster, they have like a contract with the government every few years. They renew the contract where it specifies how much of their budget they need to spend in local content, how many documentaries they need to support. I don't think it's really said like it needs to be so many local and so many minority projects, but they have like this quota they need to attend to, and then there is the cable companies, so the ones who broadcast it who bring it to the houses. They also have to put in a certain percentage into local content. And they have two options to do it. They can either decide to put it aside themselves and invest in specific projects. So, for example, if they have 1 million euros, they can choose to do one or two series that they put in themselves, or they can put that money in our pots, in our budget, and then we put it into then through our commissions we have a higher budget. For the moment, the biggest players are doing it themselves, and the smaller players they put their amount in our budget, and so we can help projects with that money.
Thank you so much. I will now like to move to Norway, just to stay on the same line in terms of co-productions. And with me, I have dear Clara. She's not only how shall I say, successful in Norway, but you are quite famous. Your professional experience is also covering Sweden and Denmark, and this is quite useful to know, because you have a kind of broader picture as a film commissioner, how you choose and support the projects, especially when it comes to co-productions. So as you worked in those three countries, now you are doing it for Norway. Can you maybe also highlight some important facts and figures, how you decide and how much financing is actually involved? Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Martina. First of all, I want to congratulate you on the sub-program. It's really great to have this initiative, and I think it's wonderful to have been invited, especially in this context. And I think it's very, very important that we do share all of how the possibilities are and opportunities are across borders, because as we have now been locked down in many places over the year, we forget and we don't meet each other at festivals and markets. So it's really important to update ourselves on what the actual requirements are, what are changing. I think as many other agencies like the Norwegian Film Institute, which is the national agency responsible for moving the film art and artistic cinematic art forward in Norway, we have also been tackling a lot of crisis funds over the year, trying to keep all the productions and developments going. But just to give you a little bit of a picture, just to understand the big goals of the Norwegian Film Institute is really about development, to develop in all different ways, develop the industry, obviously, but also very much developing and pushing the artistic ambition forward in terms of the cinematic art. And that can be in all different genres and formats and for different platforms. I'm responsible for documentary feature shorts and series, as well as digital storytelling in whichever form that may be. And like you said, Natina, I've also been a film commissioner at the Swedish Film Institute and the Danish Film Institutes. And I can cover all those three in terms of what the regulations are, in terms of the regulations of co-producing with those countries, because they're very much alike in all the Nordic countries, which includes also Iceland and Finland. So for co-producing, the film institutes all offer co-productions. And if we focus on documentaries, they don't have deadlines in Norway. They do in Denmark, and in Sweden, no. In Finland, they also have deadlines for applying. And the requirements is basically the same for all. It's having a local, a national co-producer that will apply to the film fund, and obviously how we evaluate the project is foremost the artistic ambition of the project. But in difference with the national projects, we also look at some of the other things, like the collaboration between the two production companies, the reciprocity, of course, and also what the creative spend is. How much creative exchange is there, not only in the project itself, but also can there be other types of exchange? Is one producer really experienced in animation, or providing content for a net-based streaming platform, and those kinds of experiences that can really grow the industry at large. So we look at those things. One thing that is different with applying for co-production funds in Norway is that it's not required to have a confirmed distribution platform when you apply. Obviously, you have to have it by the time you greenlight. But that can give producers quite a bit of more flexibility in terms of what platform they may be using, and they can also apply earlier. In Finland, they also recently at AVEC, which is one of their public funds, they also started funding development for international co-production, which none of the others do. It's still in just production funding. So that's just sort of the lay of the land. In terms of the division of funds, there isn't a set pool for international co-productions at the Norwegian Film Institute. There is a, there is a figure that we have to at least spend on international co-productions for documentary, which is about 400,000 euros or so. And we're 2 film commissioners for documentary, so you can apply for any of us. And I don't know if you have similar systems in Flanders or in Croatia, but in all the Nordic film institutes, the film commissioners make their sole decisions. So you actually apply directly to a named film commissioner. That doesn't.
Can I just stop you, because this is very, very crucial to explain. When you say that you choose a commissioner and you were on that line, what does it exactly mean?
It means that when the national producer applies for co-production fund, or co-production money from the institute, they choose which commissioner they want to apply to. So they choose me, then they apply with a project directly to me. And then I make my sole decision about that, whether I give it the project funds or not. If I choose to reject it, they can apply to the other commissioner, or they can apply again if they change things. So there is no limit on how many times you can apply for the same project, as long as there has been some updates to the project in between. But because there is no deadlines in Norway, you could basically apply for funds, get your response within the 4 weeks, that is the limit. And if you get rejected, you could apply again next month. And either to the same commissioner or to a different commissioner. And that's the same in all the Nordic countries.
May I ask you, how long is your mandate?
The mandate is at the NFI in Norway, it's 4 years. In Sweden, it's tops 5, as well as in Denmark. In Iceland, there is no limit. And in Finland, it is 4 years, I believe.
Thank you. And just to tackle, and then we will go into some details. So you saw that Norway is among our 3 countries, and it's leading actually in the TV programming scheme when it comes to the media sub-program. And this is something what your country, your neighboring countries have in terms of the TV fund, and it helps boosting your projects and helping out with the scheme. So maybe also if you're aware, and if you can share with us, how does it work?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the documentary funding at each of the film institutes, we don't differentiate if it's a film for cinema, if it's for streaming platforms, or if it's for television. Generally, most of the films, because it's a bottleneck kind of situation, and it's only the projects that have the highest ambition and artistic quality that actually reaches through. Most of those projects are aimed for both cinema, television, and maybe other VOD services afterwards. At least 2 or 3 different types of windows, as well as festivals, of course, and those kinds of things in the beginning. But I think it really boils down to how you finance the films. And in Norway, the lucky situation is that there isn't only one television station like there are in several of the other Nordic countries, which is the public service of each of those countries. In Norway, we also have two other, one very national. They basically only take Norwegian content, but there is two other VGTV, as well as Aftonposten, which are sort of taking longer formats, but are basically like an Opdocs or New York Times or Guardian type of format. But they have VGTV have recently been. They've been recently taking a lot more feature documentaries, as well as ours. So basically, the funds that you seek for co-production could be aimed for television or for cinema or both. So we don't differentiate.
Thank you. I will now kindly ask my technical backup team if we can screen a trailer of a Norwegian film premiering at Hot Dogs. I mean, from all those trailers, I mean, I see that all of them are kind of hits because they were all selected at prestigious film festivals. But let us see if we can hear this. It seems it doesn't work or something is going on. So just a second. No sound. I mean, we can actually talk so that we back it up. It was only media which allowed to see and hear. But maybe while we are watching, you can just highlight for those who don't know what the film is about.
Absolutely.
And it's quite emotional one.
Absolutely. And the reason why we picked this trailer, even if you can't hear it, is because one, it's just premiering and basically starting its life in the meeting with its audience. And that is always a very special moment, I think, in a film's life. Before that, it's been in the bubble of the makers and maybe some test screenings. And specifically in this film, which is about survivors of the Utøya tragedy, where 63 people were shot, young people were shot during a political rally camp, and these are the stories to sort of remember those who left, but more than that, see what an event like that can do for young people to stand up for themselves and believe in something, and also become really, really strong speakers and give a lot of inspiration to other young people. So that's basically what the film is about, and I think it's an interesting example because you never know when you do a film that is based around a national tragedy if it's going to be able to travel. And I think these kinds of meetings like markets and pitches and all the things that it's been in, you try to figure out if it's going to work or not. And if there are other co-producers that are interested in also jumping on board, because again, it is a very Norwegian story. But in some ways, I think it has lent itself. I've been surprised because a lot of festivals, international festivals, have been picking it up and being very interested. And I think it's much because it's about young people. And we're all wanting to meet young people on the screen and meeting young people in the audience. We're all afraid we're going to lose them, right? So
I
I'm not going
definitely
to say anything else. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So I will move to Chris Marčić, the CEO of the Croatian Audiovisual Film Center. What we can do, Chris, is that we chat and we see in the background what we actually shot in Croatia. I guess that media has overcome with its powers so that we can only hear this video, but in order to have some audiovisual background, we can also play the filming video, and we can continue in this direction in terms of co-productions, because usually small countries or low audiovisual capacity countries are kind of marked, we only collaborate with our neighbors. I mean, it's our natural first choice, but we see examples. We saw with Kidorama's co-production Golden Bear this year, Croatian Romanian co-production with Norway. This is already the second co-production. The first one was with My Grandpa is an Alien. So we are moving outside our usual suspects. So maybe you can back us up with some info and data, and the floor is yours.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Martina. I hope you can hear me. First of all, happy birthday to the media program and the subdesk, and happy St. Schumann Day to those who will be celebrating it later this week. Yeah, the Croatian Audiovisual Center has a kind of a triple personality. We support domestic creativity, which includes of all genres, and includes co-productions. We begin with development and work right through the life cycle and through preservation. We work with the archive to make sure that what's created is preserved. We all know the media subprogram and Martina, which is forms another dimension of the Croatian Audiovisual Center, and then we run the Filming in Croatia program, which has been a program designed to attract and really build on the historic attraction of Croatia as a location for filming. So we provide rebates to non-Croatians who come to shoot here based on their local spend. We have seen a trend towards a merging of projects that come here with the under the flag of the Filming in Croatia program, but also as productions or co-productions with Croatians. So taking advantage of support that we provide to co-productions, minority co-productions, as well as the filming program. In terms of the past, let's say the COVID year, we like, as was said by other colleagues, managed to keep our programs going throughout the process. We ran our competitions. We tried to make sure that resources, money, was dispersed, and that those who make their living in this in these activities were able to survive and continue to create. And we did run all of our programs last year. Of course, the overall level of production activity, and then later distribution and exhibition, were severely impacted. We had fewer domestic productions and co-productions than we would have expected. I think we had 5 Croatian features produced last year, and 9 international projects. That's let's say half of the normal level. But all in all, we did keep the projects going, and we also intervened to try to make sure that once the circumstances permitted, there would be sufficient support for productions that they would be able to resume and continue to shoot in Croatian. We do have this year an expectation that there will be somewhere between 8 and 10 Croatian films shot here this year, and as many as 20 international projects taking place. So it's shaping up to be a busy year, assuming that we maintain control on the virus and are able to continue to work. So that's a kind of a general overview of our activities. We support co-productions involving basically all genres. They tend to focus on features. That's certainly the area that takes the most resources. But documentaries and animations are also supported. So it runs across the board. We're moving into the area, and we'll get to this, I suppose, in a minute, but series are obviously of ever greater interest, and we're trying to move our own orientations in that direction. We will be supporting development more thoroughly this year with script and development getting support now, and we hope that in the course of next year we'll be moving towards also supporting the production of pilots, which should go in the direction of making it likelier that we would be able to also tap into the direction that the media subprogram is going, and be able to find more co-productions in this space. So, Martina, I don't know if you have, if you would like me to address any other specific points.
Yeah, I would just like to add that this TV fund is something that we kind of look upon, and we are a bit jealous on how you collaborate greatly with your televisions in Flanders and in Norway. And just a small insight. So TV programming is going to be really boosted in the new media program. So there will be some extra points when it comes to collaboration beyond your usual collaborators. So for this reason, we are here and discussing and especially representing the project which gathered like 5-6 countries in the borderline, and this is something that is going to be highly evaluated as a success story. So I will now stay with Chris so that we go on in the second highlight, and it's regarding the gender and diversity. This is also something that is going to be highlighted in the new program, and projects involving more women in terms of directors and producers, female stories are going to be encouraged and boosted. I am aware that we have been working on a study when it comes to the creation, representation of women in the creation audiovisual film industry. Maybe, I know it's not yet done, but maybe you can give us some highlights. How
it's a sneak preview. Yeah, I can. We are indeed in the final stages of reviewing a study that was commissioned last year. 3 eminent experts were leading the study with support from our organization. And the idea was to produce quantitative analysis and qualitative on our scorecard, let's say, in the area of diversity and gender balance and equality since the inception of House. So since this film center has been operational in 2012. And they had access to a lot of information, a lot of data on what we financed, and in particular, the extent to which women were represented in various categories. And I suppose that we are generally in line with what we see coming out of other European countries. Women are underrepresented in the category of, for example, directors. and overrepresented in, you know, the category of makeup artists, or, you know, so it's not a shocking. It's not, the quantitative findings aren't shocking, I don't think, for anyone who follows the trends. But I should say that in general, I think that the trends are moving in the right direction, just too slowly. And the qualitative analysis was undertaken to hear out participants in our production, and we had a lot of respondents. They were guaranteed anonymity, women and men, and those comments, which are now being organized, let's say, into shape that could be part of our final study, which I hope will be in a position to release within the next month or so. It really is nearly completed. They will give us pointers on where we need to make improvements. We have a different system to what was described in Norway. We don't have a single commissioner who chooses and has the authority to select projects. We have artistic advisors who make recommendations. So we also looked at whether that, since those rotate every 2 years, let's say, and we've had historically more men than women, whether that made a difference. We now have a real balance in the advisors, and you know, we hope that through that we can generate more of a balance, let's say, in terms of the outcome. And if we don't, then, you know, we need to understand why and what we can do to deal with that. We also sorry, I was getting an echo there.
Yeah, we need to kind of shorten it up.
Sorry, okay, yeah. I just wanted to say that you know, we work with the European Film Agency group, EFAD, in Brussels on this issue, and on greening, where they are very active, and both as a source of information and as an advocate on behalf of all of us. So I'll close with that.
Thank you. And just to go in line with that, since I'm also preparing the brochure of the Croatian media results, I also came up to the data that almost behind every single application for the media program, there is one woman. And more than 50% of women were successful when it comes to the Croatian media applications. And they're representing the leading position. So, yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And let's go back to Marie. So for Marie, we have a slide representation of women in Flanders audiovisual industry. So I kindly ask ladies if they can screen it.
Yes.
Maybe you can also start.
Yeah, okay. So what we have, of course, gender and diversity in our industry is a hot topic in Belgium too. And of course, there's a lot of work to be done. But what we already looked into is based on the last 3 years in our applications. What's the balance just on screenwriters and directors, because that's the functions that are always in our database and that don't change along the way. So that was the most accurate already to have a look in. So there you can see the left one is the screenwriters, the right one is the directors, and the different categories: animation, documentary, fiction. Film Lab is more experimental film, and then innovation, which is in the bottom. And you can see the different years, and the blue ones are the applications, and the green ones are the actual projects that got the support. So where we can already see that actually on every level, the support, the percentage of supported projects with women is bigger than the application. So where we can, it was good for us to see that we don't negatively discriminate women filmmakers, that it's not because that it's not in the commissions that they get stopped. The problem is on some categories. The problem is in the income of the projects, of the applications. We can see that in documentary we're quite okay. For the moment, we're at 39% of female screenwriters and 47% of female directors. In more experimental and innovative projects, we're even higher. The most, like everywhere, I think the biggest problem is in the fiction department, where we are around 25% of women screenwriters and directors. So since a few years, we're thinking at our commission, like, what can we do to approve this? And it's we have a specific work group, some colleagues that are really working with our sector, with experts, to really see, like, do we need quota? If we need quota, how do we implement them? Are there other ways to improve those numbers? The first time last year, we had a specific scheme we organized to help our industry in these difficult COVID times, where we did a slate funding for a national project. It's the first time we did it, where production companies could apply for screenwriting support or development support for 3 to 5 projects. It could be a mix of all genres, all lengths, all formats together, but it had to be between 3 and 5 projects. If they had 3 projects, they need to have at least 1 project with a female filmmaker, with a female maker. If they had 4 or 5 projects, they need to have at least 2. And it was the first time we experimented with quota, with soft quota maybe, yeah, it was. I think it was interesting. But immediately you see the pros and the cons, because also some screenwriters said to us, like, yeah, suddenly we get a call from a producer, and they felt a bit like the that they were just calling them because they were a woman and putting them as the third screenwriter, and they weren't really at the base of the project. But sometimes, you need to force things a bit that way, and then they get to know them, and maybe next time they'll work together on a bigger base. But it's discussions that are currently going on in Belgium and in Flanders, like, how will we deal with this in the future? Just as unlike in Norway, we work with commissions to select our projects, and there every commission has 5 members, and we always make sure to have at least 2 women. So we always have the balance 2-3 between women and men. And also we try to find people with a diverse background in each commission, but it's not always easy to match all the boxes. But yeah, especially the man-woman balance in our commissions is a very important one for us, that we keep in mind all the time. Also on diversity. Since 2019, every majority application, so not the minority co-productions, but all our local projects, need to have a note on diversity in their application. So it's not like really a checklist, like do you have this or that, but it's more like we ask them to write a note of about 2 pages on how they think about diversity in several aspects. So it can be on story, it can be on how you put your crew or your cast together. It can be on reaching your public. How are you going to reach out to another public, to a specific public? And we, on our website, we have like all kinds of, we're always feeding like more checklists and inspiration that producers can use, also that are as a lot of groups are working on these themes for the moment. A lot of inspiration comes in, new things come in all the time, and so we try to feed producers to. And so maybe in the beginning we saw that those notes were more like, you know, a producer that needs to write something about it, and then they say, yeah, we're going to do this and this, and that you see that they try to tick the boxes. But you know, after a few years, you see that it becomes more organic, and that maybe some of the changes are actually coming. I think there's still a very long way to go, but
when there is a will, there is a way. So
yeah, there is definitely a will, and we feel that commissions are also getting a lot more attentive to it. Yes, when they read projects, they will not only look like, okay, is it interesting, is the content okay, but maybe like, okay, on these subjects, I see you only have white male experts. Aren't there any more diverse choices you could make? Even if it's not the first names that come to mind on this topic, you know, you feel that we are trying to. To get them to think about it.
Thank you. We are just a bit running out of time, and I know that Clara has another appointment. But what I'm going to do now, I know that there are two quite dense slides. Since I included, Clara, your data in my PowerPoint, I'm going to just move quickly to the presentation. Just a second.
I can start speaking if you want to.
Yes, please.
Yeah. I think it's really, it's echoing. I think it's very important to remember in this context. It's still echoing.
Just a second, because I cannot do everything at once. Just a second. I need to first unmute myself.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that I think it's really crucial that we understand that women is not a minority, and that should not be treated as one. It should not be special programs or anything like that just because you're women. But the way there is taking action. And I think it's very important to take radical approaches in order to something to change, because otherwise it won't. And in the terms of equality, there has to be somebody giving up some space in order for others to get some place to start. It's not only about women taking space, it's actually about also men giving some up. And to me, I also get a little provoked sometimes when we mix the two subjects of gender equality and diversity, because to me they are two different things. But I won't go into that right now. But in terms of what we do at the Norwegian Film Institute, I think the Swedish Film Institute has been the leading star in terms of having a very, very, very clear goal of 50-50 2020, which is about having 50% women, 50% men in leading creative roles by 2020. That wasn't approached completely, but Norway has also taken. In terms of not trying to echo to what you other people have said, but it's about the screen, the amount on the screen being who is having the leading roles, and you know, having equality on the screen, having equality in creative roles like director, producer, and script writers. photographers and editors. In some case, mostly we have been looking 3 posts. And then one thing that I think is even more crucial than the amount of how women versus men gets to make their film is how much money they get. Not only get less money, also ask for less money. They don't think that they have the same chance a lot of times for their production, so they sell themselves a little lower. And how do we, as supporters and funds, help equalizing these things? Personally, I always look very carefully at budgets when there are women directors involved, and a lot of times I raise their budget or my contribution to their budget in order for them to pay themselves a decent salary. So those are just small things I think you can do, and then obviously it's about the stakeholders, the recruitment of stakeholders and gatekeepers, who they are, what they look at, is also really important. And in the Film Institute, in the Norwegian Film Institute now, we're 2 women film commissioners for documentaries. A lot of times there is 1 woman, 1 man, whatever, non-binary. And in Sweden, it's always half and half. Denmark, it can be different. I was there. We were 3 women commissioners for documentary films at the same time. So it's a little different. Finland, I know it's 50-50, and Iceland only has 1. So those are some of the things that I think are important. And to give you some figures, I haven't been at a few months, but when I left the Swedish Film Institute, I looked back on my slate, what I had funded. I'd funded 80 films, 50 long features and shorts. Out of the 50, 2% women directors and 48 men. Out of the shorts, I think it was 58% women. And one of the years when I also looked at, we obviously do statistics about this all the time, but I looked at the relation between how many applies and gets funded. And that year, I think it was 2019, there was 54% men that applied for funding, and then obviously 46% women. But out of those applications, there were 52% of the women that received funding. So I think it's a look at those Aspen parameters as well, and again, really looking at the amounts in order to equalize the power within the industry. How do we work with that? How can we inspire, and how can we give to women in leading roles? So I know that you're out of time right now, so I'm not going to go into the green or the diversity.
Yeah, because those are the topics that are quite important to tackle, and what I can use as an opportunity to really thank you for participating in the panel. But when it comes to the greening, it's going to be something that Europe, through the media sub-program, is going to award in terms of the automatic points. And this is something that our producers need to start get ready for that. So if you have it at the national level already taken care of, then there will be it's not going to be so difficult for them. But for some countries, it might be difficult how to introduce different greening policies in terms of overall projects. We came to an end. I mean, I can go on. I wrote like so many different things, but I just hope that we stop in this virtual gathering, and that we all look forward to really live meetings, what we really need, and that is going to happen quite soon. I thank you for your time and patience, and looking forward to our collaboration soon. For the audience, please stay with us. We are coming back soon with the case study, The Borderline. Thank you. Have a nice day. for those who are leaving. Thank you. Bye. Hello, please. I kindly ask everyone to mute themselves in order to avoid echo and all those technical surprises. I just hear that somebody else is still having the video on. If you can mute yourselves so that we don't have an echo. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect. So, dear audience, welcome back. We start with the second panel. I mean, just everybody mute yourselves because we will experience echo. And I will hear myself twice. Thank you. So we come to the second panel. So the essence of our meeting today, and it is a unique success story in terms of being supported by TV programming scheme media. And when it comes to the uniqueness, it means that it is the first omnibus of TV documentary series, and to have such a variety of countries collaborating together, and above all, collaborating with beyond their borders. So for 30 years of media and for the Day of Europe, it's quite intriguing to have the case study of the borderline. And when it comes to the money and how much you actually withdrew from the media, it's a total amount of 225 euros. It consists of 6 episodes, which I needed to write because they are quite diverse, from the wire creation in Slovenian border, from where the world ends, Lithuania and Belarus, 4 seasons in day, Northern Ireland, Raji or Samiland, Norway versus Sweden, Ribos, Kaliningrad and Lithuania, and Liberland, no man's land, so-called, but taking place at the utopic border of Croatia and Serbia. So it consists of 6 episodes, 5 production companies, but in particular there are 3 different episodes we're going to tackle today, because those are the ones that work together in terms of the media TV programming scheme. And I welcome, first of all, with the team and the person actually who started this idea and the project, joining with director Annabel Verbeke, Frederick Nicolai from Off-World. Then we have you are from Belgium. Then we have from Croatia, Tika Klara Gudac, and her producer Ljubos Dilarovic from Kinoteka. And finally, we also have the Norwegian representative, Karl Emil Rikardsen, from the company Relation of 4, and the episode Raji. So, what I would like to tackle lots of questions, but before we get into the debate, let us start with 4 seasons in day. So we have wonderful team from Belgium, Annabel and Frederick. At the moment, the episode 4 seasons in day is actually premiering at Hot Dogs. It's taking place right now, so we keep the fingers crossed for some awards. And may I kindly ask you to share with us a trailer first, so that we have also the visual look and to get inside what it's about. Thank you.
Little question, so I share my screen?
Yes, you have the little window crossed with the red line.
This one, I think, yeah.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Whatever you press, just don't get out of the stream. So those little circles you can press, but don't
I understand. I will talk a little bit because I need to...
Yes, then no worries, no worries. So maybe also we let Annabel to speak first.
Okay.
Because you are also a co-writer. And is it your actually, how did you join Frederick in the project? Have you already collaborated with Frederick before?
Yeah, I collaborated before with him. As you can see from the back, I made We Will Remember Them, which was my first mid-length documentary. So I already know how to work with Frederick. So it was not the first project, and it's not the last either, as we are still working on a new project, which is about newcomers that are trying to find a proper job here in Belgium. I am supervising director of a documentary series, documentary series of 6 episodes, and each episode is directed by a non-European director, and they follow the footsteps of those newcomers who are trying to find a proper job here in Belgium.
Okay, sorry. How are we with sharing the screen?
Yes, it should be fine now. So I will share my screen.
Unable. Nee, het is niet juist.
No, not yet. I'm sorry.
Okay, we talk.
The link of the trailer. Is that an idea?
We can also send it to the audience. I will ask my technical backup. But if I may ask you, Annabelle, the story is not regarding anything related to the Belgium borders. It's actually related to the Northern Ireland border. And I like in the pitching document, the tags, the taglines: troubled borders, Brexit, Catholicism versus Protestantism. How did you and why did you choose this particular border and not the one, for example, existing in Belgium? But let us try to see the trailer.
It works? No, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's there. Sorry, but it's something with privacy that makes it impossible for me to share the screen. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Yeah, it's not the Zoom, it's not the Microsoft Teams, it's not the Blue Jeans. What else do we have? WebEx, but it's the live stream. So each platform has its own rules, and they decide when they want to play with or without the sound. But I think we are all prepared to adjust to.
Maybe I have an idea. Wait, do again the Chrome tab, the tool.
I also would like to mention to our audience that we will also post in the Facebook chats all the trailers that we were supposed to screen, so that you really hear also what's behind. Now, Frederick, is this your screen?
This is my screen.
Yeah.
Shall we try?
Yeah.
Can you still see it like this?
Press play, full window, and mute. Thank you.
Claire, do you know where you are? No.
Do you have any idea of where you are or where we could be going?
We're all going on summer holiday. It's starting to go. It is starting to go like.
Welcome on board the Fraser National Gabrielle.
So there's a border in the water somewhere.
Just doing an immigration and security check. What nationality are we?
Sa northern people, sa Republic. Ano, makapaliw lang kasi puro naman sila Irish.
No, I don't recognize the border. I wasn't brought up to recognize the border.
According to some people, there is no border now, but there is a border.
Right, everyone put their seatbelt, okay? Well, how has this been in heaven?
I don't know. See how the weather changed so much?
Because you're watching a movie, and your movie's over. Brexit.
What you say, somebody take my mom. I'm not my son, did you tell him? Yes. I am born British, like yourself. Yeah. And that's the way I will remain until the day I die.
It's hard to believe come the end of the year that these mountains will be in Europe and we'll not be on this side.
In my heart, I know I'm Irish. I will never feel British. I don't care if they take over the whole world. They will not be able to take my Irishness away from me. Never.
Look at that.
There's been times when there's been a border, there's been times when there's no border. The land never changes, but the people change.
Yes.
So I'm going to jump on Frederick now with questions. So it's really remarkable to see so many different stories in one omnibus, and it's quite current and relevant to talk about the borders. We have a problem with border? Croatia is in the European Union, but still part of Schengen. There are some borders that haven't existed before. Now they're kind of imposed. Basically, I saw through the pitching document that you are the author of the project, but also co-writer of all episodes. And it was not easy to combine all the stories, all different production companies. So how did everything started?
Yeah, maybe I can tell a little bit about the start of the project. I was for another project in Estonia for some research. And as you know, one of those little Baltic states, Estonia, has a border with Russia. And I was actually on that Russian border at the seaside, on the shore. And the border between the European Union and Russia is just a little river. You can perfectly wade through, you can perfectly go to the other side. At the other side, also people were on the beach having fun, but I was not allowed to go on the other side. Moreover, there was a placard saying that when you pass here, you can be arrested by Russian border control, even they're allowed to shoot on you. And that made me think and reflect about the freedom we actually have gained in Europe. I can come to Croatia without having a visa and all those big checks that I need to go through to be able to travel to Slovenia, to Austria. And this is a huge amount of freedom that today, from my opinion, is a little bit under pressure, because due to so many crises, the national IDs, our identities, is, let's say, questioned again, and many people feel that it should be redefined. And I was thinking there was no better place than questioning identity than on the border with another country. And I was really interested how people living at the border were defining themselves and how they were defining those people at the other side of the border, and how they were thinking about their past, their current life, and their future. And for me, it was also a question about relativity of time. I mean, we all think we are so important, and we take such a big place in history, but actually our lives are very short, and we might divide the landscape in two. But yeah, in 200, 300 years, it might be somewhere completely else. The world can change very rapidly. So my film is a little bit to think, or the Borderline project started a little bit to think about that relativity of mankind, about borders, about cultures, about languages, and at the same time to think about the richness of our European continent, the diversity, and the freedom we have today.
I was just writing my thoughts. But how did you then approach Ljubo and Carl and others in the episodes. How did you choose them and thought that they are the right co-producers for your project?
No, actually, Brussels is an international city, and my main idea was that we should work with international people to make those films, because I wanted to work with local people that know the border regions, that know the culture, that speak the language, and in that way we would be able to make in-depth and sustainable films. To avoid any journalistic approach, going there for 10 days, 20 days and going home and that's it. No, we wanted a long-term production. And in Brussels, many people are living. So there was a creation production manager, Ivar Talec, living in Brussels. And she knew Ljubo and Tiha, and she introduced us. And so we started to collaborate. Kalle, I remember well that I just picked up the phone and I called Kalle. We did not know each other, but somebody recommended him and I begged him to join the project, because I must say, producing such a series, it was not a walk in the park. I mean, the co-producers can confirm that yeah, there were moments that it was very insecure that we would ever finish this series. I mean, being able to convince Foons broadcasters with such a concept, it's very, very difficult. And I'm extremely happy that we are talking about it today. If you would have asked me this 2 years ago, my feeling would have been completely different. I am very honest about it.
And I'm happy that we are premiering and having this discussion now, while we are having 2 episodes already at international film festivals. And just to come back quickly to Annabelle, how did you choose this specific story of Ireland? We all know that it's a bit hectic after UK left the European Union, but from your personal point of view, why did you choose it?
Okay. In fact, it's not that I'm a Brexit expert, not at all. I was not really, how would I say it, really into this politics, but I was interested in an actual border, how a border now could, I mean, sorry, sometimes I have to find my words, but I was interested in, there's so much fuzz about that specific border. And I was really curious to hear the stories of people living alongside that border. Also the fact that this border has been existing for many, many years. And yeah, it became more and more invisible. But because of now that the whole politics came over, people would take more and more, would think more and more about their own identity because of all the measurements that are being taken. I don't know if this is a good explanation, but yeah, in fact, my first thoughts were to really focus on an actual border. So voilà, yeah.
Thank you. Let us move to the second story. It used to be called Kupa, now it's called The Wire. I have the creation team here, the director Tiha Klara Gudac and Ljubo Zdjelarević, producer from Kinoteka. So when actually discussing with Ljubo, I was also intrigued because he kind of gave me a sneak preview of your pitching document, and it's quite something to present. And when it comes to the creation story, how maybe we start with Tiha. You came you approached Ljubo with the story, or Ljubo engaged you? Because we remember your last documentary, Naked, being so successful, and really it stayed and remained with our hearts, because you bring this always personal, emotional touch to your stories. But let me hear you now from the first hand. How did you choose the story, and then who approached whom? Just need to unmute yourself.
Hi again. So thank you, Martina, and thank you for having us. As Frederick has said, I mean, the whole project started with him and his idea about the borders, and with Ivat Kalec, who was, as Frederick explained, he approached Ivat Kalec for the Croatian thread. At the time, I was working in Kinoteka in Ljubo's company as an executive producer on different projects, because that's another field of my work. And as Iva is a good friend of Ljubo, she, correct me, Ljubo, if I'm wrong, if I remember something incorrectly, she approached Ljubo as a potential Croatian co-producer, as a company. And from my conversations with Iva, what she said is that she was a fan of my, I mean, she felt connected emotionally to my first film. And as far as I know, this is how I was suggested as a director. So at the time when we were approached, the idea of Croatian-Slovenian border was clear as one episode. The journey was long before it was confirmed that it will come to life. And there was a broader idea. What was in focus already when we were approached was the wire. The Schengen wire, which was being erected on the Croatian-Slovenian border. We were investigating a larger scope of possible locations and protagonists and stories and so on, and then we focused on Kupa in particular. We did a bit more work here in Croatia in the beginning. Anyone correct me, but this is as far as I remember. We did quite a lot of work here when we were developing the whole project. I did a pre-production teaser already in 2016 for Kupa/Borderline with the other director of Borderline project, Anna Shevchenko. So that was used also to pitch the project. And basically with that, we decided to focus on Kupa. That was in 2016. And then through contact with people, development on the field, research and reality versus what we had in mind, we then went into filming on Croatian-Slovenian border, most intensely from 2019 until 2020. And we also, due to the change on the border and illegal migrants actually starting to arrive from the hotspot on the migrant route, which was Croatia-Bosnia border, another smaller part was then shot there, as these two borders became relevant in terms of Europe, European Union, Schengen, the gates of Europe, and so on, and thus the story.
And now we have the episode selected for DocFest in Munich. But maybe I ask Ljubo before, thank you, Tiha, before we continue to see the trailer of The Wire.
Maybe Frederick has it.
Okay, Frederick.
Seconds.
Just Ljubo, unmute yourself. Thank you.
شوفوا في كروات من فوق واحنا مطبينا بالنهر، نهر ما بين كرواتيا وسلوفينيا. كنا احنا نموت نفسنا. هو حسن اخذوا النهر كثير.
Prišli smo s kućnog dvora po hrvačke strane, su godili, gdje su se sabrali, ja sam vidio ih jedno 20. Gdje su ih pratili, ampak su ih oni pobrali, naši.
Tole to žico razčlenili na dvoje. Ne muslimane, moram drugače reči. Islamiste, ne?
Kar se tiče migrantov, ga ni še noben videl, so sicer hodijo, ampak se ljudi nadaleč ogibajo. Pa niso še nobenemu nič naredili v Sloveniji.
So much I try to cross the border. I have now 10 times.
مع المحاولات الحمد لله نحن نحاول.
Samo unutra jedan i jedan dole. Ne, to je, ne znam, kinesko je to.
Enostavno so prišli in začeli žico postavljati. Po zasebnih zemljiščih, brez vnaprejšnjega dogovora. Žica je za nas prebivalce bila šok.
To me spominja, ko smo bili v Auschwitzu, na nekaj takšnega je tam. Kako prizor?
Ne, klej mi je bil nekaj, pa sem je zdaj izgubil. Tam hodijo dol.
Ne moremo ločiti panelne ograje na polovico, da nekje bo, nekje ne. Če boste izrecno nasprotovali postavitvi te panelne ograje, vam moramo odkrito povedati, da s tem tudi prevzemate del tveganja.
Ali hočete še to, kar imamo, uničiti? Vi žico postavljate za nas, ne postavljate za migranti.
Katastrofa! Ja, vedno, če niso videli.
And we are back. So I switched to Ljubo. I saw that the episode concretely was supported by the Croatian Audiovisual Film Center, but the rest of the funding was coming from Belgium, Flanders. So how actually was this process of getting and requiring the financing for the episode difficult? How did media TV programming scheme support helped the project to be realized? And is there anything that you would like to highlight that still needs to be improved at our national level, maybe?
Well, this project is probably any other big project. This is just like a marathon with obstacles. And when we first met Frederick, we went to island of Pag and spent one great weekend and made a quick plan about how project could or should look like. And first we applied for at Croatian National Fund. Somebody's saying to turn my volume up. Okay. Am I louder now? Maybe. We applied to Croatian Fund to get TV series development money, and this was the first money that actually was brought in the project. But your question regarding the whole financing scheme or plan, maybe I'm not the right person to answer it, because as a minor co-producer, my stress in the end is not that big. We actually got from our film fund everything that we could have got. We got minor co-production, and we got TV series development money, and that was about it from fund. That was the maximum. But the whole mastermind behind the financing is actually Frederick, about how whole scheme was or is functioning.
Was it difficult to share different roles and responsibilities during development of the project? This is going to be a question I'm going to ask you all, but let me hear you, Ljubo, first.
No, because I've pointed as a minor co-producer, you don't have so many obligations in that sense. And Frederick wanted for all the co-producers and local teams to be focused only on our episodes. and a part of smaller amount of money or part of the budget was focused on each of the episodes, and one part was supposed to go to the episode that at that point didn't get any funding from maybe other co-producers, or they needed already. But you know, Tiha made a really unbelievable job with research, and it was 35 days of shooting through the whole year, and our focus was only on the Wire episode. I mean, I never intervened on Norway episode. You know, it was only Croatian part. Every co-producer for their own episodes.
And if I may just add, besides yourself, I mean, besides Croatia being responsible for the episode of The Wire, there is also the Slovenian co-producer involved just specifically on the Croatian.
Actually, if I can say something about that, it was a little bit the concept. We have a collection of 6 films, and it's very hard to sell a series. When you go to a broadcaster, I go to Slovenian broadcaster, for example, and say, here, there's a series, and you have to take them all. It's going to be very hard. The project started because we in Belgium, we have a fund that is supporting documentary series. So there, it somehow started the concept. So by considering it more like a collection of 6 films, it was much more easy to attach partners who say, yeah, I'm only taking 1 film. I must say, for many funds and partners, it was sometimes confusing. But what is it now? Is it a series or is it a single film? Yeah, no, it is both. And also, to tell one of the reasons why it took so long was that you remember maybe where you were the moment you heard about the Twin Towers were attacked. You remember exactly the place where you were. I remember exactly the place where I was the moment I got a little email telling me that Arte was not joining the project at the end, because we were in negotiations with them. It was all very good and nice, and it was an investment of 300,000 euros, something like, which was very important for the project. And all of a sudden, commissioning editor and the people involved were not involved anymore, not working anymore for Arte, and sorry, we are not continuing with this project, was the email. That was for me a very difficult moment, because we are all, or maybe Norway, maybe not so small as we are, but Belgium, Croatia, Slovenia, Lithuania, we are countries with a low production capacity. We need sometimes big partners on board. And actually, we all have to be very proud. At the end, we did this series without a big country or a huge partner on board. Actually, Creative Europe is in terms of financial investment, the biggest investor of all. I mean, most funds and broadcasts are investing bits and bytes. So the whole financing plan of this project is a huge patchwork of a little fund here, a little fund there, economical, creative funding, a little broadcaster. So that was also one of the reasons that this took so much time.
If I may just add on that, Belgium and Norway are belonging to medium capacity, so are a bit level up in terms of the financing. But when it comes to media program, your TV series, The Borderline, is going to be the perfect example of what they are going to look for in the future, 21-27, because when applying from Belgium, for example, for such projects, you will get extra award points collaborating with all those different smaller countries and territories. So just keep on continuing in this way and you will be rewarded for that. So just to stay on the same line, we have also the Norwegian episode. So I learned today, Carl, that Kalle is your nickname, but you prefer to be called Carl. Emil Rickardsson. Am I now right? You need to unmute yourself. You need to unmute. How shall we write him? Carl, unmute yourself. Carl, can you hear us? We cannot hear you.
Sorry, it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't work on this. On the pressing the M, I had to press the toy on the screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
I already saw your wonderful poster in the back because I was searching, did a little research, and I found it very interesting, your previous film that is available now to watch online, and Camel being a hidden horse, but a wonderful film for children. So where are you when it comes to the Norwegian? And I say Norwegian episode because you are leading the episode between Norwegian and Swedish border, and it's called Raji. And it's in this Sami language, and you asked me to change it from Samiland to Raji. But would you be so kind to maybe give us a little insight? What is the story about, since we don't have a trailer? You have a trailer. Okay, so we have a trailer. Perfect. So maybe we check the trailer and then we continue. Mm-hmm.
Mun silkal makkarkin toutua, että mun kalkkanen lähki ruohalas vai taatsa vai raaji tappe saamista lepärä hektuussa. Kalau minun voi alltid seuraa täältä Aideliita. Idi jo. Että minä kuulin, kun minä koululla noukan. Mä näin kärkeen.
Aga aika, kun meillä olemas on tuppa täällä. Tolle, se aktu tiima ahteen.
Ihan tiima, takia.
Ei, tiima.
Ja tiima, mutta takia on meillä.
Tiima, kun ei. Mies kun kesällä ei se täällä mai latta.
Meitä meidän palkalla minulla on seuraa.
Viettää Georgian.
Georgian viettää. Mun just olla kalmaa.
Tällä kun ahko jaatsa kun sialkaskoului tällä halla nuotte siis sille teille lohpi taarostit. Tälle huitee hallas että maanat että si ottu saamikielä. Tällä huitee hallas moi parkete kun olle saiki taannatte siikalke. Että siikalke ottutan kielä. Että muidekta haalatte, että aileliita ja saalaissa nihkulauta ei kalkkiteko raatsa semma orvoten ja saamikielen kun moilehtne raatsan tänne.
No tää pattisvuohtami tälle. Ta kerraassa mitaljuotus muut seurus, arvoamien seurus, nokka staatuvusta. Ta kalka muistaa tällä staatuvusta, tai ei saamia kaska. No puhun verran, mutta mi taas sahtaa kevää, että oli taas min tahput. Jos min tahput, oli toppe kartanle radzi, millä kessu juupunta, kun strehkanta karttaan, ja tien päälle taas strehkata, ta sarkki, ta toppe min puhtsu ei vatsu lehki. No, että kotarasti tien raaji, te misatta puhtautus ei maaksi. Ja tästä päille lunttuulas raaji, vaan teko tehtiin min puhtui rastetaan. Teko strehka millä kartta.
Ja. Vad gör du? Ja. Alkona att du apa? Ja.
Okei. Täältä Manne. Täällä Manne menee luotavaa. Täältä Manne Norji. Tokku tunteri. Joo, täältä Manne. Kaikki sieltä seuraan.
Thank you. So one of the taglines of this particular episode is rejected boredom. And let us hear you, Carl, how you approached the story, how you chose it, and how you chose the director.
I was chosen by the director and Frederick. I came in after, I think the project were started in Sweden, and they didn't find enough money, and the directors there, they recommended Frederick to contact me from Norway, I think. And this is a story that I have personally been following for a decade. It has been going on for, it's a particular story that has been going on for more than a decade, a border conflict between Norway and Sweden, two of the most so-called peaceful countries in the world. And the story is about, up north of Europe, in Norway, Sweden, Russia and Finland, we have a nation that crosses all those borders. And at least the Scandinavian and the Nordic countries, they agree that this is a nation, but there are different laws in all the states, which divides the people of the Sami nation. So this story goes back to the 1800s, when Sweden was the supreme state, and Norway and Finland was a part of that state. And the Saarivoima story that we are following here is a story that kind of shows this dilemma that we have up in these countries.
So how many shooting days did you have actually for this particular episode? And did you encounter any difficulties?
We are still shooting, and we have difficulties because of the corona situation. The main team is in Sweden because these people are living in Sweden, but we have solved this by when the Sami people, they can cross even because they have to follow their animals.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. How do you shoot? Because they have those restrictions.
We are standing by the border with the Norwegian team and receiving them into Norway and leaving them at the Swedish border, and the Swedish team is and it has actually worked surprisingly well, I think. I just returned yesterday from Oslo because this case is now going on in the Supreme Court of Norway to solve this problem. There have been a lot of trials, and there is the final countdown of the Supreme Court. So I came from there last night. I don't know actually how many days we have been shooting so far. We just, you know, we have been, especially on the Swedish side, we have been short of money for a long time. They have now got a grant from the Swedish Film Institute that will secure their finishing of the story. But we have all the time had been agreed that we should fight to finish this story, no matter where the money are, or because we have to finish it now. And of course, I guess you want to ask what the role of the media fund of the Creative Europe, and it has been for Norway. It has been very important because we as a company are involved in all the 6 episodes. We are dealing with post-production sound on all the episodes. And then we have applied the Norwegian funds for support to the series. But there is a rule in Norway that you have to, the public funds can only support 50% of the Norwegian budget. And in many cases, you can find a commercial fund that will put in the rest. But this is not that kind of series. It's very hard to tell a commercial fund that they should invest 50% of the budget in the film. But this, because of Creative Europe, we have been able to match this, so it has been worked very well for us.
Thank you. If I may just continue to my next question, since you were caught up in not grateful timing in terms of the COVID-19, and it must be quite a challenge, especially for the directors, to do the editing, and especially all of you to meet over all those Zoom Skypes. Still, you did manage to edit the episodes, and you already have now 2 of them. Distinguished film festivals, but maybe I start with Tiha to hear her personal experience, because it must be the first time to do something like that, so intensely and a bit stressful.
Yeah, due to all these co-production relationships that we're talking about, obviously the post-production was not going to take place in Croatia. We started editing in Brussels on 1st March 2020. I went into off-world. Some episodes we were already seeing rough cuts of some other episodes. Annabelle was there, Isabel, who is doing Liberland, was there, the teams were there. Every day the work conditions started changing a little due to crawling of COVID-19 towards Europe. And 2 weeks into work with Tis, my editor, Belgium editor, the WHO proclaimed the pandemic. So it was a Thursday or Wednesday when the pandemic was proclaimed. Nobody really believed that we would shut down, but we were in the middle of what was going on. I remember we got some, as everyday conditions of work were changing a little. On one day we said everyone in the building has their own cups and you have to put your name, and we don't mix cups because we have to stay away from certain. It was nothing like this now. And I remember, okay, I'm leaving Brussels. It's obvious. Ljubo and Slovenian co-producer Viva were like, you have to come home. So within 2 days, I was already going home. And I remember leaving my cup there when I'm back. So I guess some archaeologist is going to have to dig it out one day. Then everything changed, obviously, because we didn't know what was going to happen. We just shut down. I think it was a big shock for everyone. And then I guess the reality hit, and Frederick decided we have to find ways to work it out. I was lucky enough that I had met my editor. We worked for 2 weeks together. We already talked about the material a lot together, and the process has started. And it was such a good thing that we had this physical period in the same time, in the same place, at least for 2 weeks. And then we resumed over Skype. And I guess you have to approach these things with as much humor as you can. And Tess and I, we were joking, we should, on the credits, it should say this film was edited over Skype during a world pandemic and in between earthquakes. So it was a challenge, and I think financing-wise, it's a big challenge because it absolutely prolongs the process. My editor obviously doesn't speak Croatian or Slovenian, which the majority of the film is in, and he needs my input for precision in cutting. I'm on the other side with an unstable link, and so we would work. He would send exports. I don't have the editing programs. I don't edit myself. I'm on the other side. It was just a very big challenge, but we managed. And the sound, as Carl said, was done in Norway. So you learn you can do a lot of things when you have to, but definitely not something I would recommend or would wish to continue. But yeah, within the circumstances, I have to say I have to be grateful that also we had most of the material shot, and that we were able, in the small gates which were opening between Croatia and Slovenia and Bosnia and Croatia, when we could or couldn't cross the border, we were still able to finish, I think, another week of shooting for additional materials. So crazy times.
But we have it in the DocuFest, so perfect.
Yeah.
Is it, Frederick, the same editor for all episodes? Or how did you, because there are 6 episodes, so it's quite diverse in terms of the teams and the countries. So how did you split? And how did you make such a complicated schedule with all of them differently?
No, it's feasible. It's not so complicated. What you want, of course, is that talents are collaborating. For me, a co-production makes only sense when you combine the work of talents. We can also co-produce in Norway and ask Norway just paying for the sandwiches in the hotels, but that doesn't make sense. I mean, and cultural funding doesn't allow that. And so you make a split at a certain moment, and it's so important that on the spot the director is connected to the subject, and then you see what else you can do. Maybe sometimes it's DOP, but we decided from the very early beginning that all editing would happen in Brussels. It would also be a place where we bring everybody together, where you can co-work on the project. And then the next step was going to Tromsø in northern Norway to do the sound editing. But yeah, we did it all online at the end, as you know. Very special is, by the way, Annabelle's film. Before the lockdown, we only went on 2 research trips, and everything was packed. And I think a few days before the lockdown, we canceled everything.
Yeah, I remember also that I met Tiha in that week, and we were preparing to go and shoot for about 2 weeks. And there were some rumors about COVID-19, and we were like, oh, but it's just going to be a regular flu. But it wasn't, of course. And I remember that the sound engineer called me, yeah, what about this COVID-19? Are we still going? I said, yeah, 99% yes. But then the next day they were announcing lockdown, so I had to call and say, okay, I think I made a little mistake here, so we cannot go. And then it was very tricky because, yeah, I was making a film about a border, and all borders were suddenly all shut, so that was really special. So I was waiting till the point that the borders would open a bit, but I was also scared that yeah, I don't like the masks in the image, and I was scared that everybody would wear masks and the image would be super ugly because of that, but also how people would interact, if they would be scared, suspicious, things like that. But in the end, I must say it was a super great experience. We had less restriction in August, and then we went for the full 17 days and we shot everything. So we prepared from a distance, of course, before, But there was a lot of stress, and in the end, I'm super happy that it worked out.
Thank you. Just something to share with you, and it's going to be very interesting for the authors, because it was announced when I was moderating another panel on Tuesday. So the European Commission is going to announce a pilot project. They are still deciding on how to do it, but between 2 to 3 million euros just for the authors, in order to boost this collaboration that is going to be highlighted in the new program. It's not going to be under the media, but it's going to be a quite a good starting point for all the authors at the European level together, and to work in the teams and to develop their own stories. It doesn't matter if it's regarding the film or TV series as such, but it's just something that you already tested it, so you can just continue to make number 2 with other 6 episodes if they're existing, because amazingly enough, like I would never thought that Norway and Sweden would have such a intriguing issue, and I always thought that it always happens here in the region, in the Balkan region, but you always do it probably more peacefully. And but still it does have an effect. Maybe I would like to hear, since they were not part of the media TV programming scheme, but just maybe, Frederick, if you can or Annabelle jointly mention also the rest of the episodes, and just some short highlights to have an idea.
So just to continue what you're saying is that we have to know that Europe, the freedom and the peace is very relative. It's not only Balkan. The whole of Europe is a very precious continent, but also a very vulnerable continent. So there are many of those stories to grab. And in this series, we chose for another one, which is oh, please, sorry, I'm a little bit confused. Sorry. First, I will end with Liberland. Liberland is the Czech political person who established a new micronation on a heap of sand in the Danube River between Croatia and Serbia. He wants to attract some rich people to invest there. So that's they just returned today, filming the last shooting days. Then we have Before They Meet. It is a film about Kaliningrad Oblast. Kaliningrad is a little exclave of the Russian Federation, which is completely surrounded by the European Union. It's about the bird research station, where they catch birds from the air and they give them a little ring and hands and identity. So they make them into Russian birds. But a few miles further, there is also a Lithuanian bird research station, and they catch the same birds but give them a Lithuanian identity. So at a certain moment they figure out that doesn't make sense, and they start to see if they can collaborate with each other. I spoke in Liberland. Now I'm thinking about Anna Savchenko, who was mentioned in the beginning by Tiha. She made a film about Belarus and Lithuania. That border is called Stalin's Pipe because the border is very strange forms. And the legend says that Stalin put this pipe on the map at the moment they were drawing the borders, and nobody dared to move the pipe, so they drew the border around the pipe. So it's a very strange location where people, families, villages are really cut into by a wire, because it's the outskirts, the really end of the European Union. And Belarus is the last dictatorship, as it is called, of Europe. So it is a very strange area. It's a very emotional, strong film as well.
Great, thank you. I would like to also see, since we are coming closer to the end. Is there anything that you would like to share with us in the audience? Some not juicy but interesting field stories while shooting, something that is positive, unique, special for your episode. So maybe I'll start with Carl from Norway.
I don't know about the shooting, but I from a Norwegian point of view, or from my point of view, living in the north of Scandinavia, working online is the normal business. So nothing has changed. We edit in the south of Norway, or in Denmark or Sweden, and we do the post in somewhere where we have to travel for at least half a day to get there. So we have been doing this forever. So there are a few difficulties with the COVID, but a lot of it is kind of normal.
Tiha, do you have also something to share, like some special moment or something that was emotional for you while you were doing research and shooting?
So much to say. Everything was emotional. I'm an emotional person. I don't know. I guess I was thinking about it the other day when I was talking to someone. The two most emotional things in a grand scheme of things is which touch me emotionally, and which I think are the emotional point of the whole thing that we did on Croatia-Slovenian border, is the injustice of the fact that the wire is there, and everyday encounters with people whose lives are directly influenced by that wire. And on the other side, the conditions of illegal migrants on the route. So many nights of me and my crew staying up late at the end of the shoot, just thinking over everything we've seen, and a big responsibility on communicating that towards the audience. I don't know, there were many anecdotes. My crew went home. Well, it's not much fun, I have to say. Many nights we went home hungry because we would give out all the food to people. For example, we met on the road. My crew had to hide all the food because they knew that at the end of the day, with the adrenaline dropping, only then we would realize we have no food and no water because we've given it out. But I don't know. It isn't a fun process, but it's a very meaningful one. It can be, I hope. Now that the film is out, we will see.
And it definitely needs to be documented and told, because those are the stories that we need to see, and we need to learn and to leave it for the next generations that are yet to come. Thank you, Annabelle. Would you like to share something with us?
I mean, there were many nice moments. It's very hard to pick one. I think for me, what was the most surprising thing is that I already knew that Irish and Northern Irish people were super open and communicative, but I've never imagined that they would be so open and so spontaneous. So to me, that was the most surprising element. So in fact, they made my life easier during the shoot, as they were very cooperative and super enthusiastic. So I think there were a lot of different encounters that really surprised me. And yeah, I think that to me is maybe the nicest way to the nicest thing that happened to me is the encounters that each day by taking the ferry, I would not know who I would meet. Of course, I met before some characters which were fixed, but at the same time I was looking for little stories on the ferry, but I didn't know on forehand what was going to happen, and that was always super nice and very refreshing.
Would you like to add something, Frederick, as
yeah,
well?
I've been visiting all the locations, and 2 years ago I was together with Callum in northern Norway, the place where the Sami people from Sweden would settle down for a few weeks. And the final day, Kalle was not there anymore, and I was alone there with a camera on a 6-wheel quad, going up in the mountains with a guy of 65 years old. I think he was driving like crazy with me in the back on a quad in the middle of the night when it's still clear sky. Nobody, nothing, only tons of reindeer around me. I must say that was for me a moment I felt really little, really humble, surrounded by an extreme beauty, underlining for me once again the beauty of this continent, the diversity of this continent, and humble as well because I did not know about all those stories before. And for me, it was a confirmation that this series were relevant and that they should really be told and shared amongst the audience.
At least through and via European film and films in general, we can go beyond all those borders that are either imposed on us, that especially during these COVID-19 times are really affecting us deeply. And it's definitely really but each of your participation success story in it. And Ljubo, what would you like to highlight from this project? What did you learn? And what are you going to take from this project?
Almost on every project during the realization, I'm thinking myself that this would be like my last project. And next thing I'll go to agriculture or something. Because there are so many ups and downs, especially on long-term projects like this. But in the end, persistence, stubbornness wins. You have to be persistent in life, and I think that is one of the rare qualities that can get you to a goal. And Frederick and the rest of the team, crew, directors and co-producers, I think in the end that we were all just really stubborn to do this. So this is like a lesson again about making films. Be stubborn, make films.
What is the plan for the creation episode? And then I'm going to come back to Norwegian and overall Omnibus. But what is after premiering at DocFest? What are the next plans? When can we see it in Croatia, or how did you schedule it, plan it?
Yes, well, there will be 2 more festivals. One will be in Austria. And the second one is Zagreb Docs here. And we are waiting for measures to see what will be with the measures, although the cinemas are working, at least here in Croatia. I think I've heard yesterday that in a couple of weeks, the measures should be a bit less, I don't know how to say, harder or... In Croatia, we'll see how to make some cinema screenings, how to achieve that, and the film will go to festivals in this year, definitely. This is the plan.
Okay, thank you, Carl. What is that you're going to take with you from this wonderful experience?
I think personally, I've been involved in quite a lot of co-productions in my career, and personally, I would say this is the best experience because it has been more difficult in terms of the number of nations involved. But I think the way, and that's Frederick's honest that it has been coordinated so well, and we have been in touch all the time and involved in all the processes all the time, and I think that is. It's not always like that in a co-production. Sometimes you meet early and in the end, but this has been a real co-production. It has been very, very nice, and yeah, I think that is the main thing. And when it comes to distribution, we have an agreement in Sweden with Swedish television. We are discussing it with Norwegian television, and also another newspaper that is showing documentaries on their online platform. But for me, I think it's a goal to get a show of all the 6 films together, and maybe some kind of discussion like this. So I'm trying to get in touch with the possible festivals in Norway where we could show all the films in one package, because I think that's the strongest contribution. It's not the local or regional film. That it's of course great to make a single film from this region with this story, but I think the big thing is the package, the borderline package.
We are all coming towards the end. We kind of prolonged it because it's rather interesting topic, and there is always not enough time to share all your stories, but I'm really honored and grateful that it was a premiere discussion with all of you, and it's just the perfect timing before the new program is going to be introduced and tackling the slogan "Push the Boundaries." So your success story is the example how we can do it. I'm sure it was not easy and it was quite emotional, but I'm grateful for your work, because this is something that needs to be told and shared among each other. And thanks to the film, as I always highlighted and repeat myself, we can forget that we exist in borders. We are all part of the European Union, and we bring with our stories and our personalities to the cultural diversity. And I would, before I give you the last wording, Frederick, I really thank also my first panelists, your divans, also my media desks from Norway and Belgium, Flanders, and Croatian Audiovisual Film Center, Norwegian Film Institute, and Flanders Film Fund, because without them also all this would not be possible. And Frederick, do you have something to say for the ending? Some nice wording that we will all take for our weekend and think about it.
Yeah, no. Well, first of all, I'm extremely grateful that I was collaborating with so many people and talents from all over Europe. I mean, without them, it was not happening anyway. So that is a very important thing. And I thank them all for the patience and the trust, because it was not easy at all. But today I'm very happy. And I would like to encourage everybody to indeed go beyond those boundaries of languages, cultures, religions, and countries, and to collaborate, because for me, that's the only way, or the best way maybe, to tell transnational and relevant stories.
Thank you. Perfect wording for ending. Wishing you all wonderful day and good luck with all your stories. And I look forward to really seeing you prime time TV on every single national broadcaster. And we definitely need them also to boost our projects in terms of our co-productions and collaborations. Thank you, dear audience, as well, who were also patient with us and supporting us. And I look forward to another meeting, this time live. Okay, thank you. Bye.